MX Linux has quickly become one of the more popular Linux distributions out there. MX, it gets a lot of good press, deservedly so. I've reviewed MX several times on the channel previously and have always given it high marks. Well, MX just recently came out with a new release, MX Linux 18, codenamed Continuum. Let's take a look. So let's go to the distrowatch.com page here and let's read a little bit about the release announcement from MX Linux 18. So the MX Linux team has announced the release of version 18 of their distribution. The new release is based on Debian 9.6. That is the 6th point release for Debian 9 stretch. That is Debian's stable branch, by the way. So it's based on Debian stable. So MX rock solid stability. Features both core system updates and new versions of desktop applications. So reading a little more from DistroWatch here. Based on Debian stable, also based on Antix. It's kind of a collaboration of MX and Antix. Architecture, they offer 64-bit and 32-bit desktop environments. XFCE, a very customized XFCE desktop environment. They do have a live environment for those that want to run a live USB stick of MX. Also, it does allow for persistence if you run a live USB stick. So that is a very, very nice option. I mentioned that MX has become very popular in recent years, actually in recent months. And according to the DistroWatch page hit rankings here, you can tell in the last 12 months, it ranks number 4 in DistroWatch. If you go by the 6-month rankings, number 3, it's number 1 in the past week because of the big release. But if you go back to the main page here in the 6-month rankings, there is MX, number 3, the 3rd most popular Linux distribution on the planet. Not exactly. There's no way MX Linux has more installs than Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, SUSE, even Arch way down here at 13. There's no way MX has as many installs as something like Arch Linux. This, of course, DistroWatch's page hit rankings are not to be taken seriously. They really don't measure anything. All they measure are page hits on DistroWatch's site. Right? They're not a real metric of how many people actually use these distributions. Because I can tell you, number 5 here, Ubuntu, is by far the most popular Linux distribution on the desktop. And it's not even close. So that should tell you that the page hit rankings here are a bit of a joke. But they do give you some metric as far as what people are interested in. You can go back and see a year ago, 2 years ago, the interest in MX. And, it was quite a bit lower on the list. And now it's all the way number 3. So it's definitely trending up. So it does give you some idea of, what the Linux public is, especially desktop users, think about MX. So if I go over to the MX website at mxlinux.org, here's a little bit of a release announcement here. The latest updates, we have GIMP 2.10, Mesa 18.2.6, kernel 4.19.5. That is a very recent kernel. That's nice. I'm not going to run the 32-bit ISO, but if I were, it has a PAE kernel for RAM usage above 4 gigs so that you can utilize more than 4 gigs of RAM. The browser has been updated to Firefox 64, video player is VLC 3.03, music player Clementine 1.3.1, etc., etc. Mainly, it's just, a few bug fixes and some updated apps. That's probably the big change from MX17, which was rock solid stable. I actually installed MX17 on some machines, some family member machines. I actually put my mom on MX17 on her laptop. She had a laptop that was running Windows 7 and it was really struggling. And I actually tried to put a couple of different Linux distributions on her laptop, and I don't have a lot of spare time. I want to say I tried Mint on her laptop and it didn't pick up the Wi-Fi right away, and Linux installs are so quick and easy now that I was like, what, I did like a 5-minute Mint install. Wi-Fi wasn't working out of the box. I quickly switched to a different USB stick with Elementary. Did a quick install of Elementary, which only takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and Again, Wi-Fi wasn't detected after the install. Now, I mean, I could set up the Wi-Fi, but again, I wasn't trying to spend that much time with somebody else's machine. You know, this was my mom's machine. I just wanted it to work, give it to her, and say, here you go, run with it. So, well, after trying Mint and elementary, then I had a USB stick of MX17. Installed MX on her laptop, and what do you know? Wi-Fi worked. As soon as I rebooted after the install, everything worked. Installed the codecs for her, you know, the proprietary codecs and everything, and gave her that machine, and I've never heard from her since. And that was 6 months ago, so never have I gotten any kind of comment or call or email. Hey, my machine isn't working. I don't know how to do this. And this is, you know, a nearly 70-year-old woman who is not computer savvy at all, where MX17 is just working fine on a laptop. So as long as, you know, you can get to a web browser and get to, you know, Facebook and all that she uses, you know, she's good. So anyway, today I'm going to take a look at MX18. I'm going to quickly just spin it up in a VM. So I'm going to run through the install in VirtualBox. I'm not going to record the install. It's the standard MX installer. I don't think anything has changed with the installer. Let's just check out what is new as far as some of the apps. I'm going to go over to mxlinux.org to the release announcement. Mainly, it's all about programs have been updated to more recent versions. So we get GIMP 2.10, Mesa 18.2.6. We get a very recent kernel 4.19.5. I'm not going to be checking out the 32-bit image today. I'm going to install the 64-bit ISO. But the 32-bit image has a PAE kernel. That way you can utilize RAM above 4 gigs. Firefox is 64. Video player is the VLC 3.0.3. Music player, Clementine 1.3.1, etc., etc. Now, I have actually installed MX17, the previous version, on hardware before. I've played around with it on some of my machines. I also installed MX Linux 17 on my mom's laptop. My mom had an old machine, old laptop that was running Windows 7, and it was struggling. And it wasn't working for her. She needed something else on it, so she doesn't really know anything about Linux. She doesn't really know anything about computers in general. So I decided I was just going to throw anything on there, any of these easy to use, user-friendly distributions, because I've got USB keys with several Linux distributions to choose from. So I put Mint on the machine. Mint's like a 5-minute install, and I reboot the machine. Wi-Fi is not working straight out of the box. Now, I don't want to spend that much time on this. This is not my machine, right? This is my mom's machine, but I'm not looking to, you know, investigate the problems. So the Mint install, reboot, Wi-Fi is not detected right away. I was like, well, you know what? I'll grab a different USB key. Grabbed a USB key with elementary OS. Installed it. 5-minute install, reboot. It didn't detect the Wi-Fi on that machine. Okay. I had a USB key with MX17 on it. Installed MX, very quick, easy install, 5 to 10 minutes. Reboot the machine. It detected Wi-Fi, no problem. Very easy to install your third-party drivers and codecs, and, you know, 15 minutes after install, basically, I hand her the machine, and that was 6 months ago, and I've never heard anything from her about that machine since. It just works. That is the thing with MX. You know, people will tell you it's just easy install, things just work out of the box, and it is rock solid stable. So today I'm going to take a look at MX Linux 18 Continuum. I'm going to take a look at it inside a virtual machine. Alright, so this is MX18 inside VirtualBox. I gave this virtual machine 2 cores of my 6-core CPU. I gave this virtual machine 4 gigs of RAM. I've already run through the installation. I didn't record the installation, but it's the same MX Linux installation you've seen in previous videos I've done on MX. Very easy install, 5 to 10 minutes, you're done. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And the VirtualBox guest editions are working out of the box in MX18. Why are they working out of the box? It's because we are running the very latest kernel, 4.19.5. The VirtualBox guest editions are all kind of baked into the kernel now, so you don't have to struggle, you know, installing, you know, compiling the guest editions anymore, which is really nice. So I'm just going to take this for a quick spin. I'm just going to, again, just briefly spend a few minutes, see what's installed, look around, maybe tinker a little bit, but I'm not going to spend too much with MX18 today. Again, this is more just a preview for those of you that are interested in maybe trying out MX18. Anyway, let's go through the menu system here and see what is installed by default. Your standard XFCE application. So we have our application finder, we have our archive manager. The archive manager is, I believe, the standard GNOME archive manager, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes it's hard to tell what these applications are because they have generic names like archive manager rather than the actual name of the program, which is file roller, I believe is technically the name of it, but it's file roller 3.22.3, so it is GNOME's archive manager. You'd use that for zip, unzip, tar, gz. Also under accessories, we have our bulk rename tool. We have the catfish file search. This is a standard XFCE application, so you can search for files and directories on your system with that. Also under accessories, we have Clipit, which is our clipboard manager. I think it's already running, but if it's not, if I launch it, yeah. See, now we have 2 paper clips right here. So one was already running. Let me quit so we don't have 2 instances of the clipboard running. Conky manager, so that is probably a little program that will let us change Conky themes. So Conky is the little system monitoring information that is on our desktop and it gives us time, date, looks like hard disk space, memory usage, CPU usage. So if I click on that first line there, you see the Conky changed. And if I click on the next one, let's see, we get a different style. Click on, I guess I have to click some of them off too. So I still have one of them running. So let's click them all off. And let's start with the third one. Yeah, that's not great. Yeah, I kind of like that. That's kind of classy. And that's alright too, but it's in the center. It really needs to be on the side. But I do kind of like that Conky. Yeah, that's nice too. You see, I kind of like minimal. I like clean. Yeah, I'm just going to go with that. That's a nice Conky. Also under the accessories menu here, we have Featherpad for our plain text editor. This is a minimal, lightweight plain text editor based on Qt 5. So it's a Qt app, Qt. Also under accessories, we have Calculator. Calculator is a fantastic calculator. It's got, some nice modes, basic modes, scientific mode. Got some notation modes. Calculator is a great calculator with a horrible name. Calculator with a G. Calculator 2.1.4. GTK-based scientific calculator. Anyway, cool program. Also under accessories, we have the LightDM GTK greeter. So this is how you change the theme to the LightDM login greeter. We have Lucky Backup. Lucky Backup is a neat little program. I've used a little bit in the past. It's for this backup and restore. So Lucky Backup 0.4.9. It's a Qt app too, Qt. Backup and sync application. It's one of those programs, kind of similar if you guys are familiar with things like Deja Dupe and Ubuntu, Timeshift, and Mint. Also under accessories, we have Midnight Commander. Midnight Commander is a terminal-based file manager. Kind of a strange thing to include by default on something like MX Linux, which is kind of geared toward, standard desktop users. I don't want to say it's a noob distro, but it's supposed to be easy to use. Not that Midnight Commander for a file manager is hard to use, but kind of a strange choice to be on there by default. Now, they do have another graphical file manager installed by default, Thunar, the standard XFCE file manager, which we may take a look at here in a minute. We have MX Clocky Desktop Clock. Let's take a look at that. Just this desktop widget. Yeah, I'm not sure why I would need that, but neat little thing, I guess, to include. We have MX iDevice Mounter for mounting your iDevices. Now, I don't own any iDevices. I Hope none of you own iDevices, but I understand many of you do have Apple devices. And this is for basically connecting to your iPhone, iPad, iPod, whatever iDevices, iThingies you happen to use. I won't judge. Not today. We have the MX Updater. Now, being such a new release just 2 days ago, there really shouldn't be any updates, maybe a handful. But the updater says I have, 6 new updates. I'm not going to bother taking the updates. Also under accessories, we have our note utility. I'm assuming this is going to put, our little notes down here in the sys tray. Let me close that. I'm not one of those people that really use note-taking applications, but for those of you that do, that could be interesting. We have onboard, which is the on-screen keyboard. I won't turn that on because it's annoying when you turn that thing off. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to figure out how to turn it off. We have global time, password and keys, our screenshot utility, a sensor viewer. Let's see what that is. Okay, so it's going to show basically temperatures, I guess, on the system. It's not going to show anything really in this virtual machine because there's nothing to show, right? We're not running physical hardware. All right, Task Manager is our graphical GUI task manager. So this is our process viewer. Let's see what kind of CPU and memory we're using. Actually, CPU is a little high. I wonder how much that has to do with some of the stuff we've already opened, which includes the note-taking app. So if I get rid of that, let's also quit the update utility because that thing can really spike the CPU in many distros. That CPU is still very high. Let's see what is taking all that CPU. Well, trying to sort, it really doesn't give me any indication of what is hogging all that CPU. Anyway, this is a virtual machine, so it's not on physical hardware. RAM is very low, 9% of the 4 gigs of RAM I gave this machine. Let's see if Control-Alt-T brings up a terminal here in MX18. I guess it doesn't. Does Super T bring up a terminal? No. I could just find the terminal emulator here in the menu, though. Let's open up HTOP. Let me make sure that CPU is actually correct that I was seeing in the GUI system monitor. Yeah, HTOP is not reporting that high CPU. It's reporting 1%, 2%. Now it spikes up to about 20%, but the GUI system monitor was giving me readings of 60 and 70% CPU usage, which was insanely high for, I don't have a whole lot of stuff going on here. So anyway, close out HTOP there. Actually, while I have the terminal emulator up, let's do a quick uname space -r. And we are running kernel 4.19.0. I thought I was supposed to be running 4.19.5. Maybe I have to take that update that was available, those 6 updates. Not sure on that, but either way, I'm good with the kernel. We have, of course, the Thunar file manager. This is our GUI file manager. Standard file manager for the XFCE desktop environment, Thunar 1.16.15. By default, it doesn't show all your hidden files and directories, so right-click and does it have a show hidden files? I guess not. I think you have to go up here to View. View, show hidden files. Okay, and now we see everything, including the dot files, those files and directories that begin with a period. Those are normally hidden, but for me and for most users, you really want these to be displayed at all times because you're going to play around with a lot of them if you are kind of a Linux enthusiast. If you tend to tinker with things and, edit config files, all your config files are dot files. So you probably want to configure your file manager to actually show you all the hidden files and directories at all times. Let's close out Thunar, see what else is available to us under accessories. I think the last thing was XFburn, which is XFCE's disk burning utility. Not a bad disk burning utility. I certainly wouldn't change it out if it's already on the system. Under development, we have Genie. Genie is a plain text editor, but it's really more of a IDE. It's, designed for people that program. Really nice, though. You can use it as a plain text editor. I installed Genie on most of my systems. Genie 1.33 is the version here. Under games, we have some games installed. We have Solitaire, Chromium BSU, which is a scrolling space shooter, Hearts, L Breakout, Mahjong, Peg E, and Swell Foop. Yeah, okay. So a couple of, small little games to keep you occupied. Right, under graphics, we have GIMP, the GNU Image Manipulation Program. This is GIMP 2.10. Of course, this is our free and open source alternative to something like Adobe Photoshop. I use GIMP for all the channel artwork, for all my thumbnails, for anything I do in life that requires me having to edit an image. I do everything in GIMP. Really nice program. So GIMP 2.10.8. Also under the graphics category, we have Gscan to PDF, LibreOffice Draw, Nomax, which is an image viewer, and Simple Scan, which is a scanning utility for those of you that still have a scanner or a printer that can do some scanning. Let's see. Oh, okay, I closed it. All right. Under Internet, we have, of course, Firefox. Now, this is supposed to be the latest Firefox, which they're on version 64 now. It takes a minute for Firefox to load. It takes a minute for all these modern web browsers to load. Firefox, Chrome, Chromium, Vivaldi. They're all so bloated. That's why if I don't need images or videos, so much of the time now, I just do it all in the terminal. I use a terminal-based web browser like Lynx to view the web. If I'm viewing text anyway, it just makes sense. That way I don't have to wait all those seconds for everything to load. Anyway, this is Firefox 64.0. Close that out. Also under Internet, we have, well, let's see, under Internet, GNOME PPP, which is a dial-up tool, HexChat, which is our IRC chat client. So that would be nice if you needed to connect to the MX support channel on IRC for support. Internet, we have Thunderbird is the email client, Transmission is the BitTorrent client. Under Multimedia, we have a lot of multimedia tools. Also Mixer, we have a Sunder, which is a CD ripper. A bit of a strange choice. I don't know that many people that play with CDs anymore to where you really need to have a CD ripper actually on the ISO by default. I think they could probably just leave that off. Clementine is a fantastic music player. One of my favorite music players, actually. Oh, I clicked the wrong about. That's About Cute, which Clementine is a cute app. Clementine 1.3.1. All right. See, can we close this out? Yes, we can. But it does minimize Clementine down here to the sys tray. So actually, to really quit it, I need to go down there, right click on it, and quit. All right, back to Multimedia. GMTP. GUVC View is installed for a webcam. Pulse Audio Volume Control, of course. SMTube for browsing and searching videos, or for playing YouTube videos. VLC, of course, is the multimedia player of choice for me and for most of you, and it is installed by default on MX. VLC 3.0.3. Also under Multimedia, we had XFBurn again. Right, we have a category called MX Tools, so this is all the MX goodies. This is what makes MX such a great distro, what makes MX magical, right? They have live USB kernel updater. We have the MX boot options, the MX boot repair, which is a simple boot repair. Of course, I'd have to give a root password here, but do I really want to do a boot repair in a VM? Probably not. But anyway, this is to repair grub. So many times grub becomes messed up, especially if you're dual booting. That is a neat little grub repair tool. MX tools, here we have MX Cleanup, which I'm assuming is for getting rid of all the cache and log files and the cruft that accumulates on your system. This would be how you get rid of some of that to save disk space. Also, under the MX Tools category, we have the MX Codecs Installer. This is how you get your third-party multimedia codecs. So you just click OK and it installs all the third-party goodies you need for properly playing audio and video. Right, under MX Tools, we have MX Conky, change details of the system, desktop system monitor, I guess, to edit the Conky. I'm not going to play with that. We have Fix GPG keys. We have the iDevice mounter again, the USB maker, the MX menu editor. I'm assuming that's to edit this menu here. I'm not going to play with that. Just going to leave that as is. Also under MX tools, we have the network assistant, the MX package installer. So this is our graphical installer. I guess something similar to, you know, a GUI software center. So let me search for something that I know isn't installed by default. So we had Firefox as our browser. I'm sure Chromium would be in the repos, and it is. If I ticked it on right here, and then click install, I'm sure it would install. I'm not going to do that, but that's how you would do that. Seems pretty intuitive. So, also under MX tools, we have the MX tools. We have MX snapshot too, which I'm assuming, is this a lucky backup again, or is this its own different? It's a different kind of snapshot utility, it looks like. It looks like a MX original program. Under MX tools, we do have something called MX tools, though. Okay, and I guess this is a collection of everything in the MX tools category. So everything you see here, you see here. So, kind of cool. One more that I wanted to take a look at, MX tweak. So your current panel settings have been backed up in a hidden folder called .restore. So basically, it just took a backup of my XFCE panel because this thing is going to let me, I guess, play with it. And in case I break something, we have a backup to come back to this panel, the default one, if we need to. So this is where you could change panel to be on the bottom, the right, the left, etc. Maybe add multiple panels, change themes. So here is the MX dark theme. Let's apply it. I like that. That would be nice if I had a light wallpaper, but I have a dark wallpaper. So let's go MX light. So that looks like what we were using by default. Do we have something even lighter? Let's see. We need to use this one with a vertical panel. It suggests that. Nice of them to suggest that. Another dark theme. How about the Numix theme? Yeah, that's not bad either. I think I just gonna go with the default one. I think the default one was the best. We also have some options as far as compositing. We're not using a compositor by default, but we can turn one on. We can use the XFCE compositor, the one that comes with the XF window manager. Or we can use Compton, which is a third-party compositing program. I'm just gonna leave the compositing off. No need for that in the VM. We have some config options for LightDM and Thunar. And some other stuff. We can enable single click. I hate single click, but if you wanted to, you could do that and disable it. Alright. Let's see, what other categories? We have an Office category. We have the entire LibreOffice suite. And a PDF viewer. Then we have the settings category. Your standard stuff here as far as being able to, you know, customize the appearance. Not going to play around with that. One thing I should play around with, though, is let's check out the wallpapers. So if I go to desktop settings here, so I right click on the desktop and choose desktop settings, see what kind of wallpaper options I have. I really like playing with the wallpapers. I think I've seen most of these in previous versions of MX, but these are some beautiful wallpapers. I do give the MX artwork team credit. I mean, they come up with a fantastic selection as far as wallpapers. Now me, I prefer minimal. I like, you know, wallpapers that are not that busy, that don't have a lot going on with them, and with, you know, few colors. That's kind of my style. So I would pick something, I don't know. Actually, this wallpaper here is not bad. A little too busy. I like this one right here, the stream. But I would probably just go with something like that right there. That's actually not bad. That one there, though, is a little lighter wallpaper. That would go great with a dark theme, and we're using a dark theme. We should pick a better conky, though. Anyway, I could play with wallpapers and the conky all day. I kind of like the torn paper conky and then the wallpaper. Played around with the theme a little bit in the icons. I think I went with the Arc Dark theme. I think that's the Papyrus icons. Anyway, anything else I want to take a look at before I call it quits here with MX? We have a system category, most of the same stuff. We have the GDebi package installer. That's to install deb packages. That's a graphical way to install .deb packages. That way you don't have to do it in the command line with something like dpkg. We have gparted for a partition editor. That would be great if you were using MX as a live USB stick. You could use MX as a system rescue utility, especially when it includes things like gparted and the boot rescue utility that we showed earlier. Let's see. I think that's about it. Samba was installed by default. It's not something I use. I'm usually not sharing stuff with Windows machines. Yeah. Overall, you know, this was just a quick first look for me. I spent about 5 minutes installing MX off camera, and then I just wanted to run through quickly, share with you guys MX 18 Continuum before I go. Of course, I need to thank a few people. This show was made possible because of Ansem, Carlos, Chris, David, Leo, Rob, and Tony. This show would not be possible without those guys. They are my highest tier patrons over on Patreon. The show is also brought to you by all those fine ladies and gentlemen, all those names on the screen. I want to thank each and every one of those guys and gals for supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video, you find this content entertaining, informative, please consider supporting DistroTube over on Patreon. Peace, guys.